I wanted to take a minute today at the beginning of the podcast and say thank you to our sponsor, Huber Engineered Woods. Huber has actually been a sponsor of the podcast since 2020 when we decided to start this little endeavor. Without our sponsors, this content is probably not something that happens. But I think the best part about having Huber as a partner on this is it's an incredibly authentic alignment. Peter, Steve, and I all use Huber Woods. I've been using Advantech Subfloor for coming on probably 21 years now. I've been using Zip System and Zip System with the insulation on the back, the Zip R, since 2013. It's a system that I believe in. That systems approach where things play well together. They have design parameters that allow you to use their system for what you're working on. It works. Their tech support's there. Their knowledge is there. I've never had an issue with their product, and it's a great thing that they've decided to sponsor the podcast. So thank you, Huber Engineered Woods.
Pete Yost here for the Unbuilt It podcast. I'd like to tell you a little bit about our sponsor, Santa Fe Dehumidifiers. The first thing I want to tell you is that they have a dual-coated coil system that makes the coils last about 5 times longer. And that is why they can do a leading peace of mind warranty featuring a 5-year full replacement on the unit and then 1 year on parts. And they're innovators for the whole house dehumidification and crawlspace dehumidifier systems. They only make dehumidifiers so they know how to get it absolutely tuned for just that one conditioning of the building or the space. They're also headquartered in Madison, Wisconsin. I've been to their factory there. When you call them with install questions or application questions, you're going to be talking to tech support right out of Madison, Wisconsin. The other thing is there's no proprietary software or controls, so you can use that dehumidifier from Santa Fe with pretty much any type of control system, T-stat, humidistat. Really easy to install. Even I installed my own Ultra 70 whole house dehumidifier in our own home in the basement. Really easy to install, and it has been working fantastic. So we're really happy to have Santa Fe as our sponsor for the podcast. Welcome to the Unbuilt Podcast. I'm your host, Peter Yost, and I'm here with my trusty companions, Steve Basic and Jake Bruton. How's everybody doing here today? Great. Good to hear that.
Moving right along.
We're going to do a couple of questions here. And this one's particularly interesting because it's a humid house in a dry climate. So this is in Boise, Idaho area, which is, climate zone 6B, which means cold and dry. And he has a combination of systems here that are quite high performance. He ends up with a house with a ACH 50 of 0.4, same as Jake's house. We have a couple of mornings a year where it feels humid to the occupants, even though they only receive 10 inches of rain a year. So he did not put a dehumidifier in this house because he thought, why would I ever have humidity issues? But the client feels as though, and he says, in fact, a lot of people in his neck of the woods install humidification systems because the houses are too dry. But the client feels that it's quite humid inside the house, and they hit boost mode on their heat recovery ventilator to try to deal with things like when they shower and cook, but it doesn't seem to help to bring the humidity down. I told them to give the house time to dry from the construction process. That's a separate issue we can talk about. Yep. But what about dealing with this issue of what the relative humidity is in the house for some periods of time during what I would say is the winter? And so the question is, in my mind, one, keep in mind when they say it's humid, we're talking low to mid 50s, relative humidity. And of course, relative humidity by itself is only half of a measurement. We have to know the air temperature, but I think we can assume that the air temperature is probably somewhere around 70 degrees Fahrenheit. And so number one, is a relative humidity of 50% something that most people can detect? So
So there's a lot of feelings involved in this one that I would be like, well, this is in the range of normal operation of the building. If you'd like for me to take it into a non-normal operational range, we can do that, but that would be an additional work authorization. Like 50 is quite fine in my book. I would, well, I'd have a hard time with that.
Yeah. So a couple of things. One is the question doesn't say anything about how accurately are they measuring the relative humidity inside this home, because we know it's not particularly easy to measure relative humidity electronically. So that's the first question, is what is the relative humidity really? The other thing is when you go to ASHRAE standard 55 for thermal comfort, you have to move the relative humidity a lot for it to typically significantly change thermal comfort. Now, the thing about thermal comfort is it's a PMV, percent mean vote. It means there are always going to be people that are more sensitive to those relative humidity. But in general...
You mean whiners?
Whiners, I guess so, yeah.
I say when feelings are involved, I have a standard line. Suck it up, buttercup.
Suck it up, buttercup. Okay, I guess we're done here then. Yeah. We're just going to just say suck it up, buttercup.
This is proof for how long we've both been in the industry. But the bitter part of it.
But let's just say that I'm a little skeptical that they really be able to tell the difference between 45 and 50 or 50 and 55. That's kind of unusual. We don't know if they are really accurately measuring. Maybe the relative humidity is higher than 50%. Yeah. And at about 60% at room temperatures, people start to perspire, and that you notice.
Yeah.
But it's like a trigger level, right? And I don't think we're there yet if they're measuring it accurately. The other thing is that I've been in a lot of houses that are, close to passive house or passive house. And if they're relying upon the HRV boost mode as part of their management of point loads of moisture, shouldn't we be doing that with independent exhaust? And I know, Jake, you may have a different perspective on this than going with spot exhaust, but I've heard very mixed results when we try to manage indoor humidity with a boost mode in the HRV.
Spot exhaust is going to be more immediate return on investment, right? Like turning on a bathroom exhaust fan is going to deal with that humidity in the bathroom much more quickly than an ERV is, just because it's a volume of air moving. Mm-hmm. The ERV is going to be a 25 to 40 CFM, whereas that bath fan is going to be
probably not even
substantially higher than
probably
that.
Like 15 or 20 if it's a Zender.
I think in boost we can get we can get up to like 40 or 45. But yeah, like if you're going to go dedicated on those systems, you're going to get way quicker return out of dedicated systems. That's also an important point that I think most people miss. There's so many people tend to use the term fart fan instead of bath fan. The smell is not generally the reason why that unit is there. That is an ancillary function. The reason that thing is there is the moisture.
You call it a sweat fan.
So, Jake, you have a house that's at 0.4 ACH50. Do you have spot exhaust in your bathrooms?
I don't.
Yeah, interesting. Would a spot exhaust of, say, 75 CFM create pressure problems in that house?
Quite possibly.
Yeah.
Well, if your dryer doesn't, I don't think that does. That would.
Well, no, your dryer is either 150 to 200 CFM.
That's what I'm saying. If the dryer doesn't create a problem, the bath fan isn't going to.
Yeah.
We don't have any combustion appliances or fireplace or anything like that. So we're causing leakage from somewhere else.
My suck it up buttercup's looking more and more attractive as we speak.
Now, I will say that it's quite possible that if my house were constructed for clients, that they might not be comfortable with the ERV system evacuating from their bathrooms, because not when the normal folks that live in our house take showers. But when my youngest turns the shower as hot as it will go because she lays on the shower floor and she's 6 feet further down than I am,
cools off a lot,
and then takes a 45-minute shower and the walls get steamy because the ERV can't keep up with that load and it takes a little while to dry out. There might be clients that would be like, hey, this is not okay. When everybody else in the house takes showers, it doesn't do that. But when she does, that is a thing that happens that if we had a bath fan, it probably wouldn't.
And I just want to point out before we go to sort of general recommendations, he talks about the construction process. So we know that moisture of construction, all the building materials, is significant. We know that concrete is the biggest source. Half the water that's in the concrete is bound in the crystal structure when it's mostly cured. The other half is just waiting to evaporate. It's not bound in the crystal structure. So concrete gives off an awful lot of a one-time moisture load, but it's a really very steep decay curve. In other words, the first month there's a lot, and it's not half as much the second month. It drops precipitously. So the general rule of thumb is after 6 months, you're talking about a very small amount of contribution. So one of the questions I would have is, well, how long has it been? I think I told you guys this project that I got called into right after the new year. The build time from breaking ground to the people moving in, I think, was 11 weeks. And they had 10
inch. Was it a mobile home?
No, it was beautiful. It was actually, I think it was built for a builder and his family. And they just had this enormous one-time load. And I'm going through and adding up all the 10-inch walls, lineal foot, height of the wall. And then he said, oh, yeah, and by the way, we got told by the building inspector in the basement we needed an exit window. So I cut that out with a concrete saw. Okay. So where'd all the water from the concrete saw? Well, it just ran in the basement and we collected it. But so he drenched his basement so they had a really, really big one-time load and really high humidity. And that humidity ended up by January 1st as interstitial condensation in his wall assemblies. And it didn't help any that they had a view of Long Island Sound. And so on the windward side of the building, when it rains really hard, they also had the whole moisture problems from the outside of the building. They kind of got it both ways. All right.
That unbound water in concrete placement, it's one of my favorite terms. It's called water of convenience. Because it's the water that allows you to work it.
Do you know a phrase that I would put in the same sort of beauty bucket as moisture of convenience?
Water of convenience. Moisture of convenience.
Angle of repose.
Yeah, there you go.
Both really poetic terms. You don't get that very often in
make you sound smarter, even though you're not.
How about suck it up, buttercup?
There you go.
That's right up there too. We got suck it up, buttercup.
Suck it up. It's like it comes in harsh, but man, it softens quick.
Water of convenience seems less like you're going to push somebody down a small flight of stairs, though.
Okay, so we would recommend to this questioner, make sure you're measuring the moisture content of the air accurately. And it can vary quite a bit in different spaces of the house.
Is there any comment on whether or not we're moving any moisture with the HRV?
Well, in the winter, if you're, exhausting that moist air, it has some dehumidification effect. I just find that when it's tied into the whole system and it's really not pulling that many CFM from the area with high moisture, that's the problem.
Okay.
And then you might want to consider spot exhaust because that's the way to pull
more efficient
water from shower. And the other thing is he mentions moisture construction. We don't know, the household sources of moisture done by the University of Minnesota Extension Service. There are other sources what if this house has a greenhouse attached to it? Again, not likely, but
that would mean more moisture.
That would absolutely mean more moisture. Right.
Yes.
Okie doke. So
are you going to read this part?
Also, Steve definitely did not tell me to make sure and include that his jokes at the end of the podcast are the only thing that keeps me coming back. He did not tell me to say he's the wittiest, smartest, most handsome guy on the podcast. I repeat, I'm doing this of my own free will.
Okay. I know Cade.
Oh, is he a dork?
No, he's waiting on a set of plans. I have a feeling. Okay.
He got him.
Because they have a project going together. I've met Cade.
He got his plans.
The inside story.
This email came in before he got his set of plans. I have a feeling.
Oh, that's precious.
Like I said, keep it up, Cade. You'll be chasing 1/8 of an inch for a very long time.
Everything has a source.
All right. So on a related topic, dehumidifying and this is hard to say, an unencapsulated crawl space. This episode had potential. Yeah, I certainly realize you have just so much time. Y'all continue to go deep on the subject. I think it's an orphan topic. Question.
So he's referencing, we had a conversation with Nikki Kruger when she was on the podcast about encapsulated crawl spaces and dehumidifying crawl spaces. So go back and listen to that episode with Nikki if you haven't yet.
So this Chris's question is, can you use a whole house dehumidifier in a 2,000 square foot house with a vented crawl space without encapsulating the crawl space? Background, Dallas, Texas, 1928 Tudor, has original boat arc piers. What?
Don't know what that is.
No mold.
Maybe a typo.
No mold. Soil in the crawl space is the consistency of sand.
The what? Who says that?
Apparently, Peter.
Yeah.
Really?
No, but there's a reference. There's somebody in the movies or something that does that.
Yeah.
That's where it comes from.
I only watch the old silent flicks.
But isn't like dehumidifying an unencapsulated crawl space is like trying to warm a refrigerator with a blow dryer?
Yeah.
That's poetic, Steve. That's really good. That's very clever.
I'm thinking.
Well, he does say that the crawl space soil is the consistency of sand. Okay. I don't really care what the consistency of the
sand can be wet.
Sand can be wet
Sand
too.
can be dry.
Well, it's if you're crawling around it, you care.
Well, that's true. That's very true.
The physical touch of it.
But unencapsulated means that you have no control over it and you have no idea how much moisture is making it up through that. Because what happens is as soon as there's enough energy at the surface of the soil, the water evaporates. So it's just coming in and you don't see it.
I see this guy sitting in like the rainforest with a Santa Fe with a duck like at his face with him like in the middle of the rainforest.
Spot dehumidification.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So in the household sources of moisture, the number is, let's see, every 1,000 square feet of bare soil can transmit up to 100 pints of water a day. Now, I'm sure if he's got dry, sandy soil, it's not 100 pounds of water a day, but it is highly unlikely that you're going to be able to dehumidify your way out of what essentially is a moisture sink in your crawl space. If it's a 2,000 square foot home and it's a one story, then he's got a 2,000 square foot crawl.
Yeah.
That's a really big crawl.
That's 200 pints.
A day.
Man, you are firing all cylinders.
So the problem we have here is we're trying to apply control to a completely uncontrolled environment. We're leaving a window open.
Warming an open refrigerator with a blow dryer.
Yeah. It's very short-sighted.
Much stupider. Sorry.
You'd be better off to encapsulate the crawl space and not even put a dehumidifier down there, probably.
Just roll out plastic and put a couple of bricks on it for a start.
I was going to say, just doing that will give you a lot of information without much cost. Maybe you could roll it back up and sell it to somebody else if you find it. Yeah. You don't have any water condensing on the bottom of that. We're being pretty tough on Chris here, but
make sure the plastic is dark in color or non-transparent.
So you can't see the water?
So that if there is water on the backside of it, no client complains to you that there's water in the crawl space. Doesn't matter if the water's on the outside of it.
Yeah. So first of all, this would be a code violation. Maybe not in Texas, but Dallas, Texas.
Well, if it's grandfathered in.
1928, true. But I guess it would depend if you're doing anything with this building.
Yep.
And it kicked in the code. This would be regardless of the code. Who knows what's coming up through that soil besides the moisture? Yeah.
There's all sorts of issues that you might be worried about there.
Yeah. Okay. So you cannot dehumidify with a mechanical device and unencapsulated crawl.
Yeah.
Case closed.
So is there a time where you're going to have an unencapsulated crawl space on purpose?
So let's say that you're in an area where there's high chance of flooding, right? I mean, we either have to push that space out or pull it in. And I think there are some conditions where you would say, yeah, but if I pull it in, it's going to have to be a boat haul once every 10 years when this whole neighborhood floods out. But then you sort of move. Remember, where were we going? I guess it was in Houston. We went to some homes that had been basically lifted and a crawl was put in, but it wasn't a vented crawl. It was an open crawl. It was almost like piers with a lot of fill in to let that water just go unimpeded underneath. But I think people get hung up on, is that a crawl space? I would say if it's not confined,
it's not
with
a
any
crawl.
vent, it's basically wide piers.
Yeah.
If you're basically letting it roll through, and then you're insulating and air sealing on the underside of the floor assembly.
Well, after Hurricane Sandy, there was a lot of like Delaware, New Jersey, New York. There was a lot of tearaway wall regulations and things like that.
Yeah,
right?
we've done tearaway walls before and stuff.
And so that would be considered like a crawl space. And some of those you can actually generate like garages and non-living space in those areas. And that's kind of like a interstitial space. Like it's not outside, but it's not inside.
Yeah.
Are you allowed to condition those in any way?
I would assume they had to be because
separate.
the conditioning doesn't really matter to the code, right? Code doesn't care if you want to spend more money you can heat the outside.
Condition your garage if you want. Yeah.
Condition your patio out back. They do care that the equipment isn't down on the ground. There's an elevation where that has to be set and be above, which is set by FEMA, I believe.
What you use the term tearaway?
Yeah, like we built a house where like if some surge came up, it would knock down the walls, but it wouldn't knock down these piers in the corners.
So
it would tear away the wall. And the wall inside is not structurally attached to the piers.
Yeah.
It's in between them.
But I'm really interested in like breakaway means that they are set to fail with a certain load.
They're set to move with a certain load. Yes.
Yeah. So how do you determine, how do you build it so that it actually breaks at a certain
1-800 structural engineer.
Oh, okay.
Is that where Dr. J stuff comes from?
And what is the wall? So
CMU.
Oh, it's a CMU wall that breaks away. Huh.
That way it's strong enough that you can like have stuff there and it not have to attach to the piers. And then a lot of them have vents in them too, don't they?
You can put flood vents in them. Huh. And we're doing a house now in South Carolina, and we have like vents and stuff. The first floor is like the space between the downstairs garage slab and the underside of the floor system is probably about 14 feet.
Whoa.
And the residence is above it.
So these are not dry stack.
It's made to flood.
But it's not dry stacked concrete block.
No, this is a traditional house that's made to flood.
But the breakaway wall is
the
CMU.
breakaway flood was CMU wall in between a bunch of concrete.
And they're mortared together.
They're mortared together, but they're not attached
filled
to the piers.
And they're not.
So the wave comes in, pushes it, it falls down onto the basement slab or whatever, and water moves under the building.
That's pretty cool because, you just rebuild that wall. It's a... Whenever it might not happen for 10 years, it might not never happen at all.
Yep.
So then you have not a crawl space, not a basement. You have an enclosed pier, an enclosed pier space.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yep. And that home is the one with the breakaway. That is air sealed and insulated on the underside of the assembly.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't see a reason why to ever do a vented crawl space anymore. Like the effort of moving everything up to the underside of the floor frame.
I want to say it's less insulation. We did the calculation once. It's less insulation to insulate the wall and go in 2 feet underneath the slab than it is to insulate the floor frame above. It's really, really hard to get that plane airtight.
Yeah. And then you're dealing with your house is sitting on top of something that's potentially moldy and nasty and gross and like.
Well, I told you years ago we had to do building assessments down in Mississippi with Neil Moore. This is a long time ago, like late 90s. And I remember him saying you have to go under the side of these houses and verify the insulation levels. I pulled the metal skirt and like the whole ground moved. I said, I am not going in there. There's like snakes and shit in there. I am definitely not going in there.
Yeah. Well, so the other thing is that the venting rules for crawl spaces, they're absurd. I've been in crawl spaces where it's blowing 30 miles per hour outside and the air is just barely moving through. Mm-hmm. So the whole idea that you're going to get significant airflow, up on a roof with stack effect because it's a sloped roof. All that makes perfect sense to me. But the physics of air movement down in crawl spaces doesn't happen.
Yeah, let's have 2,000 square feet, 4 foot tall, and we'll put a 12 by 6 vent that has 50% ventilation because of the fins and screen.
I'm telling you, nothing's happening down there.
Yeah, it's like trying to breathe through a straw after running a marathon.
You're just buttercupping your way across this whole podcast.
Tony's out this afternoon. It was a good lunch.
We had a local supply house for concrete call and say, hey, you have a ticket that's like 60 days overdue. Are you going to take care of this? And I was like, first of all, I haven't gotten one from you guys. I didn't know about it. Like, can you send me a copy of it? And it was crawl space vents. And this is like in the last 3 years. And I was like, this is not something that we ordered. Like you guys charged something to our account on accident. Like you got to figure out where it goes because it didn't go to us. Huh? And they were like, it's charged to your account. You need to pay for it. And I was like, I haven't done a vented crawl space in 15 years. I know that this was not for one of our jobs. And I went back and forth with those guys for like 6 months over it. And it ended with, the general manager is going to take it upon himself to take it off of your bill.
How much money was it?
It was like $700 in vents. It was enough to do like 6 crawl spaces. It must have been a multifamily builder doing a large crawl space. And I was just like, this is not me.
Yeah, come look at my building.
I was like, I don't do vented crawl spaces. These are not for my project. And like, we went a while without buying anything else from them because the way it ended was like, well, out of the kindness of our heart, we'll take it off of your bill. Instead of, sorry, we charged something to your account that wasn't yours. I was just like, this is the most ridiculous thing. And it made it 10 times worse that it was like vented crawl space stuff that I was just like, things I talk all the time about how we don't vent crawl spaces. Like I wanted to be like, here's a podcast, listen to a podcast. Here's a video, read this, listen to this video that I made about vented crawl spaces are for idiots, So yeah, that was a totally unrelated aside. Not totally unrelated, I guess.
Run with it.
The other thing, the last absurdity with vented crawl spaces is...
Last absurdity. That could have been like a book.
It could have been.
Pete's biography.
I have the final absurdity. And again, you guys have
Autobiography.
totally distracted me from what I was trying to talk about. The final absurdity with the crawl space, a vented one is
it final or last?
Open the vents when it's good weather and close the vents when you want to protect that space from outside conditions.
Yeah.
No one ever goes and moves their crawl space vents. Final insult.
Or putting that heat activated coil that's supposed to open and close them that doesn't even work on the first day that you put them in.
Yeah.
Because they get poured and racked and then the things won't open and close anyway.
It's a crap show.
Yeah.
Okay. That takes care of humidity in the crawl space and in a dry climate. You heard it here first.
Cade and Chris, thank you for your questions. Questions at unbuilditpodcast.com if you want to add comments or questions. We do answer all the questions, and we do find them to be a great source of topics for the podcast.
I got a pretty weird experience I want to share with you guys.
Uh-oh.
No, this is really like out of the ordinary. A salesman came up. This is probably a couple weeks ago. And he was trying to sell me a coffin. Yeah, it was really weird. I told him, that's probably the last thing I need.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Again, you heard it. You heard it here
absurdity.
First. The last absurdity. You're just blending. You're integrating your humor with the topics.
My mind never stops.
That is just beautiful.
I'm knitting the world's quilt.
That's even a metaphor. What did you have for lunch?
Don't mess with me, buddy. I'm bringing the house down.
10-4.
First of all, that salute sucked. 10-4 isn't a military term.
Do you normally salute left-handed?
No.
I know. I knew the answer to that question.
My shoulder is so sore on my right.
I'm not going to demonstrate for you, but I will tell you, I probably had one of the best salutes in the Marine Corps. Like, I had gotten complimented on it numerous times. Yeah.
He's also known for his modesty.
You could have been a model.
I'm just saying. My salute was
top notch.
On that note, have a good day.
Bye-bye now. Oh, you did it.